The first enhancement you'll notice is part of the Acumatica interface for an overall improved user experience. Screen headers have changed and wording has been improved on many forms. We've also made some changes to the payment batch process improvements. We were lacking a little bit of flexibility to correct errors in payroll after a certain point, and we were unable to edit a direct deposit batch when it was created, and it was difficult to reprint checks. The workflow of payroll payments has been improved. Now users can create payment batches for paychecks as well as direct deposit payments. Also, users can correct errors in a paycheck that is associated with the payment even if the payment batch has already been created, as well as add paychecks from the payment batch. Let's take a look. So the old direct deposit screen has been renamed to payment batch, and the print check screen is now called create payroll payment. This is where you create payroll payments for both physical checks and direct deposit notifications. You can also add batches in the create payroll payment batch screen on the fly, and you can click the plus sign and add batches in the payment batch screen as well. In this screen, under the Actions menu, you are able to print checks, or if you're doing direct deposits, you can print your pay stubs. Then you can confirm payment and release. These two actions can be separated by selecting your payroll preferences and making the change there. This is for physical checks. For direct deposits, you can go ahead and export, and you can export as a pre-note as well. And you can do this multiple times before you confirm the payment and your release. If you do it more than once, in your Export History tab, you'll have to enter in a reason on why you're creating another export, and then you can compare the batch totals to make sure the information is correct. We've also added the ability to import time directly into the payroll batches screen. So instead of being able to having to go to the time module to import time or use an import scenario, you come directly into payroll batches. It was also a bit difficult to have an overview of the entire content of the batch. So now you can enter in employee earning details or upload earned hours from an Excel file directly to payroll batch without having to use time cards. To support these improvements, multiple changes have been made to the payroll batches form. So during the import the system, it'll bring in the employees that are part of the pay group, but it won't bring information in that doesn't match the dates of the period end or the period start. So you'll see here on the earning detail screen, we now have the ability to load records from a file. Just as a tip, you can click on the Excel to export an Excel file and load that file to load it back into the screen. We've also added the ability to copy and paste in paychecks and adjustments. It was difficult to copy information from a voided check or use a previous paycheck information, and it was pretty impossible to use paycheck information from another employee. Now in the paychecks and adjustments form, the clipboard menu has been added to the form toolbar. This menu contains the standard copy and paste option that you see throughout Acumatica. We've also added the ability to add security by pay group. We added a new column called User Role. We had the inability to achieve segmentation using security by branches. It was impossible to segment visibility between the different groups. Now you can use your user roles within the system to separate out the pay groups. So your admin or your salary can be seen by one user role, and your weekly and your field could be seen by a different user role. We added more information on the tax settings. I added in an additional information, basically a description, and a form box column. It was hard to understand the impact of what these tax settings were on the system, and it was hard to go try to find that documentation on the web. You can now click on the additional information screen and column here, and it will show you exactly what you need to enter in and why. In the Forms box column, you can add in and see which form that this information impacts. Our next feature is the hierarchy for workers' compensation. The workers' compensation was driven only by the cost code or the employee. It was difficult to set up a cost code range, and there wasn't enough validation on duplicate workers' compensation codes. Now you can specify the sources for the workers' compensation codes that the system inserts by default when a paycheck or a time activity is created. So what we've done to support this capability is we added in a sources pane, which shows you that you can pull from either the project tasks, or if you click on the labor items to pull in from the labor item as well. So our hierarchy would be project task, labor item, cost code, and employee. This will happen in both time and in the payroll module. We've also added in 3 new reports and generic inquiries to aid in the annual reconciliation of not only W-2s, but these can be used for quarterly reports as well. It was difficult to verify the numbers that you were seeing in your government reporting, and you needed an overview of the earning, deduction, benefits, and tax totals for each one of these employees. These reports and the inquiries that you see, earnings by employee, deductions and benefits by employee, taxes by employee, will summarize by code for each one of the employees and list out for Q1, 2, Q3, Q4, and give you a year-to-date information as well. Our last feature to show today is multiple paid time off start dates. It was a manual change for anniversary increases for accrual rate, and then also a change in our selector for the PTO banks. Now you can enter in multiple PTO banks on the employee payroll settings. You can have the accrual rate automatically switch based upon the effective date, and the selector has the day and month on each one of the PTO banks.